So, welcome to Cologne and to part 2 in my introduction to Marxist ideas. Let's begin by recapping a bit from yesterday. We began by thinking about a simple commodity exchange. I have something that you want, you have something that I want, they are of equal value, so we agree to exchange them. I give you a guitar lesson and in exchange you cut my hair, that sort of thing. But then we recognised that in the real world, the guy that cuts my hair might not want to learn guitar, that in the real world, for a market to operate, we need money. Therefore, we take a commodity, we sell it, and with the money we buy whatever commodity it is that we need. C, commodity, to M, money, back to C, commodity. Now notice that the money is simply a means to an end, and the end is the commodity that we need. Now what the capitalist does is invert that equation. They start with money, invest it in a commodity, not because they need the commodity, but because they hope to eventually come away with more money. So notice what was a means to an end has become the end in itself. When money is used like this, we call it capital. Well, I say it becomes an end in itself, but unlike the CMC formulation, which satisfies a concrete human need, actually the only logical outcome of the MCM formulation is to repeat it time and time again to try and accumulate more and more money, whether or not you actually need it. But there's a problem here for the capitalist, because the laws of classical economics are very clear. You have to exchange equivalents. You might get away with buying cheap and selling dear for a while, but that doesn't actually create any value. What the capitalist needs to do is find some sort of a magical commodity which isn't just an embodiment of a fixed amount of value, but which creates value itself. What could that golden goose of a commodity possibly be? I'll give you a clue. It's the same commodity which probably most of you sell week in, week out. I'm referring, of course, to labour power. Now, all the capitalist needs to do is treat labour power like any other commodity. He needs to pay the worker just enough to make sure that the worker comes back the next day in a fit state to do the work required. So that might mean some sort of contribution to basic education and healthcare and so on. But then the capitalist just needs to make sure that the value created by the work done by the worker exceeds the amount that he has paid to the worker. In so doing, he extracts a surplus value or a profit. Now here's where it gets interesting. There are about 1 billion of us around the world who go out every week to work for someone else. What the capitalist mode of production has demonstrated is that between us we can create a huge surplus value. In other words, we can create a huge amount of wealth beyond that required to meet the needs of the people who create wealth, the workers. Now there's absolutely no reason at all why that wealth couldn't be shared out in some sort of a democratic way. We could get rid of poverty around the world, we could convert economies to be carbon neutral, we could decide just to work a 3-day week, we could do anything we want. But the reality is that under capitalism, that huge amount of wealth is simply stolen by a tiny number of unelected people at the top of society who, through historical conquest or coincidence, happen to own the big companies, or what Karl Marx would have referred to as the means of production. And they generally just use it to live lavish and lonely, high carbon emitting lifestyles on yachts and golf courses around the world. Now I think that's a disaster, and I think we can do better than that. I'll see you in Berlin.